What if I told you the person you're in love with doesn't actually exist? Not the version you wake up next to, not the one who forgets to text you back, not even the one who says, I'll do better, but never does. I'm talking about the version you carry in your mind, the version you're waiting for, the version you believe they could become. If only they listened, if only they healed, if only they loved you better. And the longer you wait for that version to show up, the more you disappear. Let me say something that might sting, but it could also set you free. Falling for someone's potential is not love, it's a projection. And it usually starts with an old wound you've been carrying for far too long. We don't fall for potential because we're naive. We fall for potential because there's a part of us that needs that potential to be real. Because if they change, then maybe we'll finally feel safe. If they grow, then maybe we won't feel abandoned. If they finally rise into the person we imagined, then maybe our pain will have been worth it. But here's the truth. Potential is seductive, but it's not a promise, and it can't replace peace. We tell ourselves, she has so much inside her, I just want to help her see it. He's been through a lot, that's why he shuts down. If I love him right, maybe he'll open up. But let me ask you something. While you've been fighting for their growth, who's fighting for yours? See, the illusion of potential is often our way of avoiding a harder truth, that we're still trying to heal something in us, not them. I want you to try something. Think of the person you've tried to fix, change, or upgrade. Now ask yourself, honestly, what am I really trying to fix through them? What old belief is running the show? That you're unworthy unless you're needed? That love must be earned through sacrifice? That pain is part of the price of connection? This is how we lose ourselves slowly. Not through some big explosion, but through 1,000 tiny self-abandonments. We overlook the red flag because they had a hard day. We silence our needs because they're not ready to talk about it. We tolerate disrespect because at least they didn't walk away. But here's the thing. You're not here to be someone's project. You're here to be someone's partner. And love, real love, isn't about who someone could be. It's about who they consistently are. Their patterns, not their potential. Their actions, not their apologies. Their energy, not just their effort. We keep trying to convince people to grow, but the truth is people change when they're ready. Not when you beg, not when you bleed, not even when you give them everything you have. People change when their patterns start hurting them, when they hit their own wall, when life humbles them, not when you try to rescue them. And that's where your power comes in. Your power is not in getting them to become someone they're not. Your power is in asking, am I willing to stay if they never change? Not the fantasy version, not the one they promise you on the good days, the real one as they are today. Because here's what I've learned. The more you love someone's potential, the more you excuse their patterns. And the more you excuse their patterns, the more you forget who you are. Let me ask you right now, and don't look away from this. Are you in love with the person or with the possibility? And if you're honest, how long have you been waiting? If this spoke to something deep inside you, here's what I want you to do. Take a moment and answer this in the comments. What pattern have you tolerated because you believed in potential? Like this video, if it brought you clarity, share this with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe because the rest of this journey will help you reclaim yourself fully. Thank you for walking this path with me. Let's go deeper in the next section together. And let me ask you something. Have you ever heard someone say all the right things, but something in your gut still felt off? They said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I promise I'll do better. I just need a little time. And for a moment you breathe, you believe, you soften because their words sound like love. But the truth is, words without patterns are just noise. See, we've been conditioned to look for the apology. We've been trained to wait for the promise. We've been taught to value someone's intention more than their integrity. But here's the truth. Most people avoid what someone does consistently. That's who they are. Not what they say when they're caught. Not what they promise when they feel guilty. not what they say when you finally threaten to leave. People are patterns. We all are. And if you want peace in a relationship, you have to stop chasing potential and start tracking patterns. So let's get honest. If someone repeatedly disrespects your time, if they disappear when things get hard, if they push your boundaries and call it love, that's not confusion. That's not a mixed signal. That's a clear answer you're refusing to accept. You know what we do, right? We latch onto the one good moment and make it mean everything. He held your hand when you cried. She cooked dinner after the fight. They apologized and said, I'm working on myself. And then you forget that last week, they shut down again. They ghosted you again. They blamed you again. Because that one good moment becomes the story we cling to. It's what we use to silence our own wisdom. Let me be clear, people can change. Absolutely. But only if they're willing to do the work. And more importantly, only if they've shown you a real plan for change. So ask yourself, have they communicated a plan? Have they taken real action? Or are you just seeing emotional bursts and calling it progress? Real change doesn't come in a pretty paragraph. It comes in the day-to-day, the way they speak to you when they're tired, the way they show up when they're stressed, the way they listen when you express a need. That's where the truth lives, in the pattern. And here's the trap we fall into. We're so emotionally invested in their growth that we ignore our own regression. We stop honoring our standards. We stop trusting our instincts. We stop holding the line because the story of who they could become is just so convincing. But listen closely. Hope is not a strategy. Waiting is not a plan. And romanticizing a promise is how you stay stuck in a cycle that's slowly breaking you. Let's go deeper. You can't keep forgiving someone for the same behavior and calling it growth. That's not compassion, that's avoidance. You're not giving grace, you're giving up pieces of yourself hoping it'll make them whole. It won't. Let me give you a truth I had to learn the hard way. When someone tells you who they are, believe them the first time. Not the version they sell you on a good day, not the version they beg you to wait for, the version they are consistently, even when no one's watching. So here's what I want you to do. Stop writing off their behavior with statements like, but they're going through a lot, but they had a tough childhood, but they don't know any better. Let me tell you something. Understanding someone's pain does not mean tolerating their patterns. Compassion does not require self-abandonment. And I know it's painful to walk away from someone you love, but it's even more painful to lose yourself for someone who's not becoming who they said they would. We've all been there, hoping, waiting, fighting for the fairy tale, but fairy tales don't heal you. Truth does. And the truth is this. Their pattern has already told you everything you need to know. So what are you going to do with it? Let's keep going. Let me say something you may not want to hear, but you need to hear. Trying to change someone is not love. Most of the time, it's control dressed up as compassion. I know that's hard to accept because it feels like you're helping them. It feels like you're pouring into them. It feels like you're loving them through it. But pause for a moment and be honest with yourself. Are you doing it for them? Or are you doing it because you can't handle the discomfort of their dysfunction? That's where this gets real. We say, I just want to help them be better. I know they could thrive if they just did this. I see their potential. I'm just holding them accountable. But underneath all that effort, if you dig deep enough, what you'll often find is fear. Fear of being left. Fear of being alone. Fear of being disappointed. Fear that if you stop trying to fix them, you'll have to face the silence of your own healing. See, trying to help someone grow can become a subconscious attempt to manage your own anxiety. It becomes a form of covert control. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you're human. But healing starts when we call things by their real name. Melody Beattie, in her powerful work on codependency, said it best. You can't force someone to be who they're not. You can only love them where they are, or leave. Let that land. You're not their parent. You're not their therapist. You're not their transformation plan. And the more you believe that you are the missing piece in their growth, the more you are abandoning the work you need to do in yourself. Sometimes we think we're saving them, but really we're saving ourselves from the pain of letting go. Let's go deeper. You say you're just trying to help them become their best self. But what if I told you that's not your responsibility? What if their chaos isn't yours to clean up? What if their emotional immaturity isn't your assignment? Here's the truth. You don't get to rewrite someone else's story just because you're afraid of how your own might end. And I've been there, trying to rescue, trying to guide, trying to lead someone to the version of them I believed they could be. But one day, I realized something painful. All that effort wasn't rooted in selfless love. It was rooted in fear. Fear of being rejected. Fear of not being enough. Fear of what it meant if I stopped trying. And when I finally let go, when I released them to their own journey, that's when I found me again. Listen, you can love someone deeply and still let them walk their own path. You can care for someone fully and still say, this is not mine to fix. The truth is, if they don't want to change, nothing you do will matter. And if they do want to change, they won't need convincing. They'll show you, they'll seek help, they'll take ownership, they'll step into it because they're ready, not because you pushed them. But here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Sometimes we try to change others so we don't have to change ourselves. It's easier to focus on their mess than sit with our emptiness. It's easier to analyze their flaws than confront our own patterns. It's easier to manage their growth than admit how long we've avoided ours. So I want to challenge you today. Ask yourself, what part of me is uncomfortable with letting them be as they are? Is it your fear of failure? Is it your need to be needed? Is it the story that your worth comes from how well you carry others? Whatever it is, name it. Because once you see it, you can stop outsourcing your healing through someone else's journey. You are not a sculptor molding them into a masterpiece. You are not a savior sent to rescue them from themselves. You are a person worthy of peace, partnership, and presence. So the next time you feel the urge to fix them, pause, breathe, and ask, am I doing this for them or to avoid what's broken in me? Because healing doesn't happen when we perfect others. Healing happens when we finally stop trying to. Most of us are not suffering because of what life is. We're suffering because of how we wanted it to be. We didn't just want a partner, we wanted them to be different. We didn't just want love, we wanted love to look like our favorite story. We didn't just want growth, we wanted it on our timeline. The distance between how things are and how we wish they were, that's the space where pain lives. It's not the reality that breaks you. It's the resistance to it. There's a powerful concept in Buddhist philosophy and dialectical behavior therapy called radical acceptance. And I want to be clear, this doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean lowering your standards. It doesn't mean, well, I guess this is all I deserve. No, radical acceptance means seeing reality as it is so you can respond with wisdom instead of fantasy. You can't heal a wound you keep pretending isn't there. You can't move forward if you're still holding on to how you wished it turned out. And you can't create peace from a place of denial. When you radically accept someone for who they are, not who they promised to be, not who you imagine they could become, you give yourself permission to make a powerful choice. Stay fully conscious or leave clearly. But let's be honest, most of us don't practice acceptance. We practice tolerance with hope. We stay not because we love what is, but because we hope it will change. We tell ourselves, it's not that bad. They're trying. Maybe one more month, one more conversation, one more sacrifice. But let me ask you something. How much of your suffering comes from constantly waiting for someone else to become someone they're not ready to be? You say you're being patient, but patience without clarity becomes self-destruction. You say you're being loyal, but loyalty without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. And you say you're staying because of love, but love without peace isn't love, it's addiction. See, when you radically accept reality, you stop spinning in circles around questions like, why are they like this? Why don't they see what I see? Why can't they love me better? And you start asking the questions that free you. What is this relationship actually giving me? What is it costing me? What version of myself am I becoming in this dynamic? Let me break this down with a metaphor. Imagine you walk into a restaurant. You're hungry. You sit down, open the menu, and it's not what you expected. The service is slow. The food doesn't taste right. You leave disappointed. Now imagine you go back to that restaurant again and again, each time hoping the chef will change, each time lowering your expectations just to be less disappointed. Eventually you convince yourself, this is fine, at least it's open, at least I know the menu. This is what we do in relationships. We stop expecting better because at least we know what to expect. But here's the shift. Radical acceptance says, this is the menu, this is the service, this is the vibe. Do I want to keep dining here, or am I just afraid of being hungry again? That's the power of seeing things clearly. It doesn't make you bitter, it makes you wise. It doesn't mean you have to like the truth. It just means you're no longer willing to lie to yourself. You can say, I see the good in them, and I also see what's hurting me. I understand their trauma, and I also understand my needs. I have compassion for their past, and I also choose a future that's kind to my heart. Listen, you don't have to tolerate disrespect just because you know someone's pain. You don't have to accept inconsistency just because they say they're trying. You don't have to keep shrinking yourself to keep the peace. You are allowed to outgrow someone. You are allowed to wake up and realize you want something deeper. You are allowed to choose truth even when it hurts, because choosing truth is the first step to choosing yourself. Let me say this again. Radical acceptance is not resignation. It's not defeat. It's not settling. It's a sacred act of honoring what's real so you can stop fighting shadows and start building something solid. And the moment you stop wishing for a different version of your relationship is the moment you finally reclaim the power to make a new decision. So what would happen if today you accepted them exactly as they are and asked yourself honestly, am I at peace staying here? Because anything less than peace is a signal. Let's face it, letting go is one of the hardest things we ever do. And not because we don't know the truth, but because we do. We just don't want it to be true. We don't stay because it's working. We stay because we're still hoping they'll wake up, hoping they'll rise, hoping that somehow all the pain will finally feel worth it. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, how much of me have I sacrificed to stay here? Because there comes a moment where staying costs you something far greater than the relationship. It costs you your peace. It costs you your voice. It costs you yourself. I've seen it too many times. Someone wakes up 10 years into a relationship and says, I don't even recognize the person I've become. Let me be real with you. You can love someone deeply and still have to leave them. You can wish the best for someone and still know they're not meant to walk beside you. That's not failure. That's clarity. Here's what most people get wrong. They think walking away means you stop loving, but often it's the most loving thing you can do. Letting go doesn't mean you hate them. It means you've finally chosen to stop abandoning yourself. See, you were never meant to stay where your soul is starving. You were never meant to shrink into silence so someone else could feel big. You were never meant to mold yourself into their comfort while your own needs went unmet. You are allowed to want more honesty, more consistency, more peace. And just because someone can't give it doesn't mean you're asking for too much. It just means you've outgrown the space they're still living in. Let's take this deeper. There's a concept in psychology called environmental conditioning. It tells us that we are shaped by the people we spend the most time with. You become more like the people you're around, whether you realize it or not. So ask yourself, does being around them bring out the version of me I'm proud of, or the one I've been trying to outgrow? You are not their sculptor. You're not here to shape them into the version they refuse to become. You're not their mirror. You're part of their environment. And if your presence isn't inspiring growth in them, if all your love turns into exhaustion, if all your guidance turns into arguments, if all your support turns into silence, it may be time to step back, not to punish them, but to protect you. Because truthfully, Some people only realize your worth in your absence. Some people only understand the weight you carried when you're no longer holding it for them. Some people only grow when they're left to face their own reflection. And I get it. That feels cruel. That feels unfair. That feels like you're giving up. But hear me, letting go is not giving up. It's giving back responsibility. It's saying, I trust you to handle your journey, and I trust myself to walk mine. We all want to be the exception, the person who finally gets through to them, the one they finally change for, the reason they finally become who they could have always been. But that's not love. That's ego. Love doesn't say, I'll fix you. Love says, I see you, and if this is who you choose to be, I release you with compassion. Let's be honest. We've all been the one holding on too long. We've all clung to the familiar, even when it became painful. But holding on too tightly to something that's hurting you isn't devotion, it's delay. Every minute you spend begging someone to become who they promised is a minute you're not becoming who you're destined to be. You are not here to be a prisoner of potential. You are here to walk fully into your purpose. So today, if you've been waiting for a sign, if you've been searching for permission, if you've been hoping someone would just see you, let this be the moment you see yourself again. Let this be the moment you stop watering a plant that refuses to grow. Let this be the moment you remember. You are not hard to love, they're just not built to love you well. And if they're not, that's okay. Let them go with love. Let them go with peace. Let them go with a blessing. But don't let them take you with them, because the greatest act of self-love is to stop asking for the bare minimum from someone who was never meant to meet you at your highest. You are worthy of more. And now you know it.